Hello, Schmoeville. This is pretty exciting. There's a lot to be excited about. But first, let's talk about phase 2 of the podcast. It has been going up on this channel. We just put the Sam Levine one on. We put Catherine Reitman, our co-host, during all of phase 2, her first appearance. And then Catherine's been in the last probably 2 or 3 that you've listened to, if you've been listening in a row, or maybe you're just kind of tuning in. If you have seen this particular title, this is Navid Mcilhargey. This is a buddy of mine that I've known for a very long time. Met him when I was working over at Joel Silver's company, and Navid and I have just been really good friends ever since I started working there, and we've kind of worked together and done some stuff in the past. But what was cool here, Navid has actually turned into a kind of a returning character in phase 3 of the podcast. He's been on a lot. He's been on the Celebrity Impression Dating Game. He's filled in as co-host a bunch of times. So this was his first appearance that he was ever on the show. And Navid's one of those guys that, you know, he's a good talker, and it's not a BS talker. He talks some shit, and Navid, and that's the other thing I like about Navid is that you can go back and forth with him, and he's got a great sense of humor, and you can really give him shit, and he'll take the shit and give you shit. But he also knows his shit. He really does know a lot about this business and the way it works. And he's one of those guys, he's got good taste in films, and he's one of those guys out there, you're glad that he's out there making movies because he has the taste of the fans. Now, the other thing that is very interesting, this is for people who are watching this channel, that if you're not checking Facebook or Twitter, there was an announcement today on both Facebook and Twitter that Phase 5 of the podcast, the Schmoes Know podcast, is returning. That will return on April 3rd, 2014, and it will be from 7 to 9 p.m. Make sure you keep checking Facebook, Twitter, this channel here, our main channel for the exacts. You'll be able to watch it on schmoesknow.com. It's just a matter of a little bit of a secret of where we are broadcasting from. I'll tell you here, it's kind of an exclusive for the people of the podcast channel. We will be live in a studio taking phone calls, and you may hear about the deal coming from someone that has been on the show before. How about that? Anyway, that very exciting stuff, so make sure you check out the rest of the podcast channel. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.
All right, we're back. It's the Schmoes Know podcast. I'm Christian Harloff.
I'm Mark Ellis, and Christian, you sound a little exasperated.
Don't even tell me, you son of a bitch. This guy just locked me out for 20 minutes and laughed his balls off and shoved Quiznos down his face.
I did a couple of those things, yeah.
And what you also did, you haven't done it so far, but last week you insulted at least one woman.
No, I didn't insult a woman. Our co-host was late, and our esteemed co-host, Catherine Reitman, was late. But guess what, kids? Catherine Reitman's back this week, and she was early.
Yeah, I slept here. I'm never leaving.
Yeah, Catherine Reitman is back. Catherine, welcome back.
Thank you so much. Good to be here with one of you.
That's right.
The one who's not a sexist, horrible monster.
I have an inflated bed that you can sleep on.
Now, listen, this is why... Ellis, last week, I'm listening to this podcast to see how it came out, to see how stupid we sounded.
You were listening to the podcast.
Yeah, with me. It was me and my wife, and we were listening to it.
Oh, does your wife like our podcast?
Not anymore after you insulted women. She was like,
I'm with her.
that's sexist.
It's awful.
Honestly, have you met your wife?
Yeah, no, listen. Now, first of all, that's
welcome our guest into the show.
Now, Neanderthal, if you that's what we like to hear. All the long-haired Rambo 3 Riggs from Like Us Lethal Weapon 3 as well. Navid Mcilhargey is here. Hello, Navid. How are you?
Good, Christian. How are you?
Good. That sounded very menacing.
Very sexy, actually.
I think
for the ladies.
Really. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Now, be careful with him.
Go with menacing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dangerous. Very dangerous.
That voice, he sounds like he just got off like the docks off like some mysterious ship where he just beat up a bunch of pirates, and he's like, I'm just in town for
like
a drink.
I said, sexy.
Yes.
I don't want any trouble.
Navid Mcilhargey is here. Now, Navid is a studio executive that I've known for a long time, and we've been trying to get him on the podcast. Today is the day that he is here. And
scored him.
That's right. We're going to talk a lot of things, actually. We want to talk to Navid about basically how you get, and like I know, because where are you from originally?
Ohio.
All right. Now, you're from Ohio. Then, actually, a buddy of ours who's another film reviewer is Chris Stuckman. He's in Ohio. He's an aspiring filmmaker, which is what you wanted to do as well, right?
Yeah. I started out, I guess I went to film school to be a writer-director. Quickly realized that I was good at neither of those.
Right.
But
It's like Ellis when it comes to telling jokes.
What?
Oh, zing.
Okay, look, you're upset with me about something because I don't understand what the sexist comments were. I made fun of Kat. I made some lighthearted jokes that she's a woman and maybe she didn't get the directions. I don't even remember what I said.
I would like to hear your dark material.
I had a quart of gin before the podcast, and then she doesn't show up on time, and I'm supposed to improvise something. I thought it was pretty humorous. I'm sorry if I offended anybody.
To be honest with you, I actually got a kick out of it, and I think that...
This is what for those of you listening, this is what married people do. They come up to you behind their spouse's back, and they're like, "Oh, dude, between you and me, I thought it was hilarious." And then when they're with the spouse, they're like, "Oh, you can't do that, Mark."
I just admitted that in front of 4 listeners. Now, again, so Navid, you realized you were shitty at filmmaking, so you decided you wanted to find filmmakers that were better than you and let them make a lot of money.
Yeah, I always tell the story that I was a caddy when I was growing up, and everybody says, "Does that mean you're a really good golfer?" And I say, "No, I'm a terrible golfer, but I can read a green and tell you how far to hit the ball and what club to use."
Yeah, those who can't do caddy.
And so what?
Those who can't play caddy.
He's just being sexist. Keep going.
And that's kind of what my job is like now. I'm not a great writer director, but I can tell you what's wrong with the script and what a movie needs and blah blah blah.
Can you do that with people in general? Like, can you look at me and be like, "Okay, she clearly..."
You maybe, Ellis. There's no hope.
You wanted to take one of what was that game show or that model show where they'd like point out, they take a laser pointer and like shoot somebody's abs and be like, "That one ab muscle is not developed enough. You are not hot."
Favors the left side.
Yeah.
There's not a laser big enough for you.
Well, just one big spotlight.
Too bad you couldn't have fixed the last Airbender with that laser pointer, because that needed about 100,000 laser pointers.
You did fix all 3 dimensions of that.
That was
movie.
not me. That was my neighbor.
Oh, really? Yeah. So, okay. Well, how does that work? Because I know you're a pretty blunt dude, and it's probably gotten you in trouble 100 million times.
I'm sure I'll be fired on Monday.
That's right. That's true. Because your boss is one of the 5 listeners. So the question is, so let's say a movie like Airbender is a pile of piss, right? And your buddy makes it, and he's like, "How'd you like my movie?" What do you say?
Oh, he knows it's a pile of piss too.
Right. All right. Well, the movie. Let's say a movie.
That's what you always hear though in Hollywood is like you either hear, "Oh, everybody loves this movie," or everybody knows it's a bad movie, including the people that made it. There's got to be like a movie where the people who made it are really proud of it, but everybody else knows it's bad.
Of course.
What do you say to somebody in that situation who's a buddy of yours? You don't want to break their balls too much.
Bullshit.
Lie to him.
I've seen him tell.
Navid has a soul.
No, he doesn't. Navid's a different type of person. Navid literally, like, I could see, like, there was a guy that we knew at this place over at Warner Brothers, we'll say, a production company, and I saw this guy come in his movie. He's been making it for years, and the thing ate shit. It just ate a pile of shit. And Navid goes, "Nice movie."
Oh, wow.
Killed the guy.
Wow.
He just all he could say back was, "You made white chicks," which Navid did too. Yeah. But
Navid, you made white chicks?
I did white chicks.
You do? You don't have a soul. Wow.
So there you go. Everybody's ribbing on each other, and that, of course,
it's healthy. It's healthy.
It
You
is.
got to keep it straight.
Well, that also shows that Navid, like, one of the things that we're proud of with our show, and
one thing we're proud of.
Is there something?
There is something, and it's that we like to approach it from like the everyday, regular guy point of view, and that's why I think you're too young.
What are you being sexist? It's the everyday person point of view, Christian.
Fine.
Thank you, Ellis.
You're welcome.
Right. By show 4, we're going to be like,
standing up for women's rights.
That's right,
Mark Ellis.
All right, but anyway, my point is that Navid is actually like one of the dudes who's actually he's one of the good guys, if you will. He is fighting the fight for the regular guy in the studio system. But the question is...
But I still make shitty movies.
But you still make shitty movies. But
he's like a schmo we have on the inside.
That's right.
Like somebody's going to tell it to you straight. He's going to be honest with you, but he's a higher up. He's not like a guy...
Well, yeah, but
by the way, getting a few bad movies, I think that means that you have to have a few bad ones in there.
It's like doing a soap opera.
Level. That's right.
Yeah.
Balance it out.
But you get your feet wet, and the thing is, you started... But you weren't always a studio executive. You were a development executive as well, like from...
I started out at an agency.
Right.
Then I went to Revolution Studios right when it started. Got promoted there. So I was a studio executive there.
Okay, studio executive.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, which is not a good way to start, to be honest.
Why is that?
Well, then I went to be a producer. And being a producer is where you really learn about how to sell, which is what you need to learn, I think, first and foremost.
So what did you learn over at Revolution first that you think you should have learned second, if you will?
Well, then when you're overseeing movies as from a studio executive point of view, well, then you have to be really analytical. You have to be more critical. You can't buy everything that comes in. You can't make every movie that comes in. So when you're a studio executive, you have to be a little bit more selective, and you really get a sense of what makes a good movie. When you're a producer, you're throwing shit up a wall, against the wall, hoping something sticks. And but you have to put stuff together in a way that studios really care, and that's, I think, the part of the job that's hardest, especially in today's
to have the studio care.
Is to have the studio care.
Right.
Now, from the filmmaker's point of view, when a studio comes in and like changes the story or gets involved, how do you
and ruin it? Which we do often.
Well,
when do you guys start meddling in somebody else's dream? When does that take place?
Is the motivation purely numbers? Are you just looking at it from a making money perspective as opposed to an art? Or how do you defend a studio on that?
Look, to be honest, it's not that we all set out to make dog shit, but there's some studios, I think, that take a different tactic, and it's more money based, and they care first and foremost about the dollar. Well, look, it's a business; they all care about the dollar.
Isn't it also?
They don't all set out to make shit just to make the dollar. But the thing that happens is when you're making a movie and you're trying to make it for the widest possible audience, you end up, as I call it, foxing a movie, where you take something that could have edge or could have something cool and unique, which I think Warner Brothers actually did with Dark Knight. They made it edgy and cool, but then you'll have a place like, and I shouldn't badmouth Fox, but you have a place like that where they would never make that version of a movie. They would always take it and go, well, it has to be okay for kids as well. So we have to figure out a way to like put that bad boxing sequence in Wolverine.
Right.
You know,
got to put Jar Jar Binks in the Dark Knight.
That brings up a good point though too, because I actually, when I worked over at Warner Brothers, I saw that a lot too. Is the fact that, do you think that there's too many cooks in the kitchen in the studio system, if you will, because you have so many, you might get lucky. Like it's like having a really good baseball team. Like let's say you have like the Yankees, all these high paid players, and they're all really good talent. But
and did they get to the playoffs?
Yeah, they did.
They did. Did they win the playoffs?
No, you lost the analogy.
Stay on task.
Yeah. So listen, but the point is, like if you have executives that aren't talented or have bad opinions, that could weigh down a movie. So you might get lucky and have everything makes sense.
Yeah, I don't want to blame studio executives. I think too often what happens is in aiming for the least common denominator, you end up putting a director that may not be like the best choice or the most elevated choice. So they're constantly aiming for the middle. Mm-hmm. And every once in a while you get lucky and get like a Chris Nolan that you put on a movie who really elevates the material. Right. And you always aspire for that, to like make something that will be great. And that's usually director driven. But sometimes even, by the way, there's times when you take one of those elevated directors and put them on the movie and you get something like The Big Year. Is that what it's called? The Bird Watcher movie.
Yeah,
he's a great director. Everybody wants to work with him. And then you end up with something that just didn't work. So, but what you aim for is to get the best script with the best director, and then you hope you get that director that elevates the material even more, and you don't end up having to aim for the middle.
Is the director the only carte blanche? Is that the only person who can actually stop the studio from...
It depends on the director.
Right.
There's Final Cut. If you have a director with Final Cut, they usually get to do whatever the hell they want within reason.
Here comes a perfect example for me that when I talk to people about what we're just talking about with... The X-Men, which one was it? Oh, well, the one you just mentioned, the Wolverine. Last Stand. Yeah. Gavin Hood did that one, right?
Yeah.
Now, he did a great movie called Satsi. It was, and that, he could do whatever he wanted to because that was his
rendition after that.
Okay, but Satsi was the one that really kind of put him on the map, and it was made for like $6 in a Snicker bar or whatever.
And they won an Academy Award.
Right. But I think that Fox was able to bully him.
Yeah.
And I think that ultimately hurt the movie as well, though, didn't it? With the Roger Rabbit special effects.
Right. Well, I think what happened there, first of all, what's his face? Wolverine. Hugh Jackman really wanted a more elevated director. He had just done the X-Men Last Stand with Ratner. And he really wanted on Wolverine to elevate the material and get someone more edgy and cool, like Warner did with Nolan, for example. And so when Gavin went in and did his version, I think I wasn't involved in it, but from what I understand early on, his stuff was much more dramatic, much darker. Yeah. He didn't move the camera a lot, and it was much more. His storytelling was not what Fox usually wants out of their movies. Right. And it's funny because I went into one of the international marketing meetings listening to what they do. And the message from the studio constantly was like more colors, more bright, more vibrant to be able to market it to the kids. Right?
Oh, that sounds like what Joel Schumacher did with the with Batman Forever. Just put more colors on there. People think it's a comic book.
And quick, shoot a nipple.
So and look, I don't mean to badmouth them, but sometimes when you do that, but you go into a movie making one type of movie, but then you realize that as the studio level that you may have made a mistake. You suddenly try to steer the ship in a different direction, and it's a big ship.
But I think that's saying that you could they bullied him because again. well, I don't like what you're doing. Oh, you're okay. Then go make Satsi 2.
Right.
Is what they basically because the thing is they couldn't do that with Bryan Singer and Vaughn on X-Men Last Stand. That movie was awesome. And
because those directors were so well established, is what you're saying?
I think it's because Singer had a big part of this one. They already knew that he did 1, he did 2, and he made it successful. I mean, again, I wasn't there. I don't know, but what I would guess was they were like, okay, they give him a little bit more leeway as opposed to someone like Gavin Hood, where they're just like, no, listen to what we say.
Yeah.
And I don't think they did that.
And again, when you come in later, you're trying to re-steer the ship in a different direction, it's hard to correct it the right way. And you end up with like something that feels like an amalgam of a bunch of different things.
I mean, I understand that.
And by the way, I'm bashing Fox. I got to be careful, but that's why a lot of directors don't want to work there because they do bully them a lot.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, and another thing though too is, and we'll get off Fox in a second too, but I think, and it's not just Fox that does this, but I've seen them do it a lot too. Is the bombarding of the PG-13 rating. Like I think that I thought the last Die Hard suffered from that. I didn't think that it was necessary to do that. It was a rated R franchise. You should have left that. Some movies I get have to be PG-13. You can't make Dark Knight rated R. It's got too big of an audience. I get that, but Die Hard, why is Die Hard PG-13? That's ridiculous.
Look, that's an argument that I honestly see both sides of, and
on Die Hard?
Even on Die Hard, you're trying to get. Think of how long it had been since the last Die Hard movie.
Right.
You're trying to get a new it's younger kids going to see the movies anyways, and you're trying to get a new market for it, and that's why you end up with like Jar Jar Binks. But you're trying to get younger kids you're reinvigorating a new audience that really probably didn't know a lot about the old Die Hard movies.
They have DVDs.
If the Die Hard, first of all, that wasn't the big problem with Live Free or Die Hard. It was the fact that it was PG-13.
No, it had a lot of problems, but that was one of it. It took the edge off of John McClane. That was the thing, and I understand what you're saying. Like,
when I watched that movie, I don't see an edge off John McClane. He looked like the same dude to me.
Cheapens
you guys didn't like it? I actually liked that movie.
You know, everyone tells me that the last one with the rated R version is good, but I didn't see the rated R version. I went to see the one in the theater because I'm a John McClane fan. And I saw the PG-13, and for me, the thing I liked about John McClane the most was that he was vulnerable. And even though you knew he wouldn't, you thought there was a possibility he could die. You knew he wouldn't, but in the first one, he was vulnerable. In the fourth one, he's jumping on helicopters. He's like a superhero.
Yeah, it's my least favorite one of the franchise, and it just kind of goes downhill halfway through when you just kind of get bored, and he's going to Kevin Smith's mom's house, and you're like, well, what is it?
Right,
what movie am I watching here?
Right.
It almost did that in Die Hard with a Vengeance, but Samuel L. Jackson and his chemistry was so good. And it came back nicely at the end. When does he say yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, in the fourth one?
He says it again.
Because that was my only problem when I saw it was rated PG-13 was like, wait, you gotta have the line.
He says it in the PG-13 one, but they cut off the fucker part, and it was an explosion. And then in the and the rated R version.
All right, never mind. Write the shit R.
Yeah.
I'm with Harlow.
But I do understand Navid's point where it's like Die Hard aside, like where you have to. They try to soften it up and they want the dollars, but sometimes if a movie's shitty because they can't put everything they need to put in there to kind of give it whether it be edge or doesn't it hurt the product too? Because that way you could actually make more money. Look at a movie like The Hangover. Had they made that movie PG-13, it's not a hit.
Yeah, but look, there's a line. If you're walking a line where you could go either way, PG-13 or R, why wouldn't you go PG-13? It's that little bit of edge that you would have gotten from the Die Hard movie. I don't know that it was necessary. Well, the little bit that you're looking for. Yeah, I think you guys are just arguing about an R rating just to have the sake of an argument.
No, because it had Die Hard stood on its own. The Die Hard 4 was a movie, and 1, 2, and 3 had never been made before. Then I understand that, but you already have a franchise that has been rated R from 1 through 3. It's like when Major League 2 came out and they made it PG-13 after 1 was R, and it ate shit because it didn't have that same edge. It was a PG-13 comedy, and it wasn't the rated R kind of like anything could happen type thing.
Fuck you, Jobu. I do it myself.
That's right. Exactly.
I'm fine with most. I don't really care about the rating that much unless it is something like The Hangover where it's clear. I think comedies is probably more important actually, and it is a risk though because if you rate it R and it gets great word of mouth like Hangover did, then people want to go see it again, and they tell their friends.
It also honors
Bridesmaids was R, yeah.
Bridesmaids was very R.
Very R.
Comedy should be R.
It's
just harder to be funny
different.
if you can't drop F-bomb.
You know what didn't work as R, and I thought it would?
The Hangover 2?
Semi-pro.
Semi-pro, yeah.
It was a shitbox on wheels.
What's your number?
What's that?
What's your number?
How many schmoes?
Oh, I didn't see What's Your Number. No, the movie. Wait, did we see
how
that?
many
No, we
schmoes
didn't
did
see that movie.
I'm thinking, wait, are we live?
God, no,
Can we
did
take
anyone
phone
see that
calls?
movie?
We made it.
I'm just kidding. It was great. No, but it ate it.
The problem with What's Your Number was
it R?
It got moved. Yeah, it was R.
Oh, okay.
It got moved out of the spring, and
Okay.
had it been the first one of those, I think it would have done a lot better.
Okay.
It got placed at a really bad date, and they moved it out of the spring, so it had to come after the Bridesmaids and all those other female-driven R-rated comedies.
Right. No, I mean, I agree. There's some movies that you don't have to make them R, but I think there's some that suffer when they're not.
Yeah.
Well, I can understand the studio execs want to keep it as broad as they can and get more money.
Of course.
But you got to also, the rating actually is the honor of the director. It's what the story has to be told in a certain light. It's the energy of it.
I think the point we're making, though, is that usually studio execs are going to win that battle, though, right? Over creativity, unless it's a director that is so big and has such a big name that you can't mess with them.
What are the directors who get that? What's
Nolan,
the handful
man.
of Nolan?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the older guys like Ridley,
Right.
Michael Mann, a lot of those guys. There's a lot of directors who have Final Cut, but now the studios go in contractually saying, but you have to have this rating, or you have to do this. Or
Well, how did Nolan? I know this is off the rating, but how did Nolan get so much carte blanche off of the first Die Hard? The first, I can't get it out of my head.
Batman?
The first
I don't-
Batman.
I
How
don't-
did he get so much freedom?
I don't know. Look, I wasn't there. I don't know. But I don't know that he necessarily had complete carte blanche in that one. By Dark Knight, I'm sure they gave him whatever he wanted. On the first one, I don't know, because he was coming off of Insomnia.
Right.
And I don't know that they went, here, go do whatever you want. But
That was Insomnia. When was the Magic movie? Was that afterwards?
it was after.
Okay.
I think it was in between them.
Okay.
I think.
Okay. No, I think you're right.
Now, do you ever go to film festivals, and do you have any say in what movies get distribution, anything like that?
I mean, I can recommend stuff to my boss, but that's not really our business. Our business isn't acquisitions. That's more of oftentimes the Searchlights of the world or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I can highly recommend something to my boss and hope, but they still have to see it. And
He can sit in a theater at a festival with a cigar and a monocle and make people nervous. You know, if he's liking the movie, then they're feeling good.
All right. Well, so we jumped off course. Once we hit the PG-13R thing, but when you went from working as a development executive, to working now as back to a studio executive.
Yeah.
So, how did that? I mean, because you worked for Joe Silver as well.
Yeah.
And David Gambino, who we had on here as well.
and Ethan.
And Ethan Irwin, who we also had on.
Did you get Eric on yet?
Not yet. He'd be the last. Eric Olson will be last. But so can you give us a little run of what you did at Silver, and then when you left, kind of the job difference?
Yeah. When I got hired, it was to primarily find the movies
Silver.
at Silver. The movies that Joel was known for doing, like the Matrix movies. And while I was there, with you, it was your idea. We set up He-Man, and then off of that, because of the relationship with Mattel, we got Hot Wheels. And then I set up a remake of Dirty Dozen with Guy Ritchie, and then because of that relationship, I ended up producing Rock and Rolla that we made
Great
with
movie,
Guy, and then.
Yeah, we saw that, never reviewed it. You remember that?
Yeah,
we saw it,
great
liked it, and never reviewed it because we
always
were
brutal.
too damn lazy.
That was back in the day.
If you liked it, you should have reviewed it.
Was he married to Madonna at the time?
Yeah.
And did she come to set a lot?
No, well, she came to set a couple times when I was there. I wasn't there the whole time, but she came to set, and then we had dinner with them once.
If you look her in the eye, do you turn to stone, or is that somebody else?
Only if you give her hydrangeas or whatever it is.
I think I read that in People.
Is she a piece of work?
No comment. That's a question though too. And can you give us a celebrity story without saying the celebrity's name? Can you give us a good celebrity story?
Well, you want to know the name if you.
well, you can't- I mean-
I guess how good it is.
Wait,
yeah.
what kind of story?
Something crazy. So you have crazy
crazy?
story. You give her a crazy celebrity story. You don't have to say the person's name unless you want to. And you can.
Oh, yeah, I do have one.
Give me one.
Give it to us.
Just don't give the name. You can call them, Flim Fly, Flu Fly.
See,
like-
Harloff
No, don't call Flu Fly.
Harloff
That's
doesn't
2 hours
work in the
time. We gotta
studio
cut that
world
out.
anymore, so he's like a wolf. You just got to throw him a little pork chop and he'll settle down.
Just call it Boof.
Just call her Fredonna.
Madge. Call her Madge.
I hesitate to tell this because I don't want anybody to figure out who it is, but
We're idiots. We're
I
idiots.
was in some foreign country doing a movie, and there happened to be another movie shooting there too. And I knew one of the people in it, and invited the said people to come out one night, and we all went out to a nightclub. And
nothing bad can ever happen when you're in a nightclub in a foreign country. Nothing bad ever goes down.
Right.
well, this person brought one of the other actors from the movie, and they happened to have just started dating, and we got really, really drunk, and boobs were flashed, and then suddenly I look over at one point, and the two stars of the other movie were having sex on the
In the
couch,
club?
in the club, right next to the dance floor.
I can guess the story.
I actually
Wow.
bet you. I think I know who it is.
I can guess it. It was Girl with Puppy from Ghostbusters 2.
How dare you? How dare you? I was
And
really
I
drunk.
happened to look over and said, "Wait, are you guys fucking?" And then she jumped off of him, and he tucked his dick away, and it was
No.
great. Yeah.
You ruined it. You cock blocked this
No,
guy.
but
Hates your guts.
that is not on Navid, because look, if you're having sex on a dance floor, you obviously are pretty brave, you know, and so it's not like your parents just walked home and into your bedroom by accident. They're on a dance floor. If Navid says, "Are you guys fucking?" they should look over and be like, "Yeah, it's fun. You want to join us?"
They were fucking on the dance floor?
Yeah, no, on
VIP
a
section.
couch right next to the well, but right.
But
the
you were
dance floor was
dancing.
right there.
You were dancing.
No,
So
I was sitting next to them.
So he was sitting. So
I was sitting next
So
to
you were
them.
like the creepy old man drinking like a mimosa or whatever. And
What
he's
are you
like,
kids doing?
Are you guys fucking?
Yeah, why did you interrupt them? Why didn't you just let them finish?
I didn't realize at first. I looked
his
at them and
pants
it was
off. He didn't say
by the
that
way,
either.
I was drunk.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So just like, you guys fucking, you are? Okay, can I get in there too?
I'm pretty sure he wasn't interrupting a beautiful act of lovemaking.
I'm just saying,
I'm pretty
finish
sure.
masturbating like any of us would have done, and go on your way.
I actually have another funny story that
it.
involves celebrities, but it was more on me.
We got Navid in a lather now. He's going to give us all the dish.
He's got great stories.
I have a couple really good ones.
I wanna hear 'em.
I did a movie in Moscow recently, and I was there, and I took the cast out one night, and we were again at a nightclub.
Fun place, Moscow, to go out.
Fun place. I don't need to go back, but yeah, the clubs go all night, and they're crazy, very European. Yeah.
I asked that like Larry King. Moscow, fun place. Here's thoughts.
and drink some whiskey.
We're taking calls from Iowa.
And the women there, it's unreal how beautiful they are. But
Really?
anyways, yeah.
It's fucking in the club.
And then, so I ended up blacking out that night
great.
because of how much I drank, and I found out the next day it was because one of the actors like took the bottle of vodka and opened my mouth and had been pouring it down.
Oh my god!
And so I blacked out. And the next day we had an event that I showed up to, and all 5 members of the cast came running out, and they were like, "Navid, are you okay?" And I don't remember anything. I didn't even remember how I got home. And they were like, "You okay?" And I said, "Yeah." Why? They go, "How's your leg?" And I said, "Fine." Why? They go,
It's missing.
They go, "You don't remember?" I said, "No, what?" And they go, "You got hit by a car last night."
What?
Shit, what?
Yeah,
Oh my
in Moscow.
god! You stopped a car with your leg.
It ran over me, hit my leg, and knocked me to the sidewalk.
Wait,
Holy.
what injuries? And did you let a Russian doctor operate on you?
No, I evidently didn't realize that I had been. Well, I didn't know. So
You now have a bionic leg.
Also known as a
gotta
Moscow
wonder,
Mule.
What is Navid's thought process next day? He's like, man, I really have a hangover, but it's not in my head where it usually is. It's in my leg. That's odd.
well, the funny part is like a week later, I pull some pants out of my suitcase and just threw them on, and I look down later in the day, and there's a
Penis was
smudge. No, there's a smudge on it, and I look really closely, and there's writing in Cyrillic from where I think the headlights from the car had hit the little leg
my
and made an
God.
imprint.
Fox is doing a movie. It's PG-13.
yeah, they can't show the car crash in traffic detail.
He wakes up, it's all a blur.
That's right. All right. Well, how about there's one, and you don't. Again, I don't know if you can tell the whole thing, but it's there's a story that I heard once about I guess an assistant had screwed something up, and then a particular actor got pissed off and threatened to beat somebody up. Can you tell that story?
Yeah, it was Tom Hardy. I
Okay.
can say that was.
All right. What happened there? Tell
that-
that. This story is
Fans
awesome.
of Tom Hardy. Right?
We have a lot.
No.
We have a lot of Tom Hardy fans. that
And
listen
it
to this.
involves your old roommate.
Let's hear it.
It's a good story.
So when we were shooting Rock and Rolla, Adam, your old roommate, was my assistant and was making reservations at clubs around, and one of them happened to be a private club. And he said, "Yeah, we're gonna have the cast of Rock and Rolla over," and they said, "Oh, Tom Hardy is a member, so that's fine." And they had put the reservation under his name. Well, we didn't end up showing up. So I guess the club called him at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and he's asleep. And they're like, "Are you coming? There's a reservation under your name." And they said, "Who made the reservation?" He said, "Adam." So the next day, Hardy shows up to set, and he's walking around literally yelling from, "Who the fuck is Adam?"
That's great.
And walks up, and Joel's assistant was there, and his name was Aaron. And he's like, "What, you mean Aaron? That's me." And he's like,
no.
Adam? And Tom like just like ripped into Aaron, thinking he was Adam, and made this reservation from the United States, by the way. And just literally, and Joel still tells the story. Looks at he still says to Aaron, he's like, "He was gonna fucking kill you."
How did cooler heads prevail?
We calmed him down, and I sort of took the bullet, but not really, and said that wasn't him. It was a misunderstanding, blah, 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 and he finally calmed down. But he looked like, who the fuck is Adam?
Oh, my
like
goodness.
he did in Warrior. Yeah. That's amazing. Well, those are great stories. I mean, we probably stay here and hear about 10, 20 more.
It seems like all these crazy stories seem to involve some sort of nightclub of some
definitely
sort. I think maybe if you guys just have a curfew, I think everything would be okay.
It's the truth. Well, speaking of stories, now what we do is no, it's all right. What we've done the last couple of weeks on this, we go to darkhorizons.com and we go over the latest movie stories that have been going on, and we kind of give our take on it. So there's a couple stories that came out this week. Now, one of these is that Joseph Gordon-Levitt is now going to be in Tarantino's newest movie, was it Django, which we talked about last week with Sam Levine.
Why is this a story?
Why do we care? Because we actually have a lot. Because Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I think there are very few. And he's not from Canada, right? He's from America.
Is he American?
I'll like him either way.
No, because there's a reason why. We had this conversation. There are not a lot of great up and coming
American.
There really aren't. Like if you look at all the
they're
big
all Australian,
Right.
European. They're all.
That's right.
British.
Because they're none of our guys are classically trained anymore. I mean, you have like Matt
Unless
Damon,
you're looking at the cast of Footloose.
right? And they're classically
All
trained
American.
and dense.
But that kid sounds like he's Australian.
I know,
You're
it's
obsessed
true.
with that.
Yeah.
He's from Boston.
Well, he's from Boston, which
It's
is
not,
great.
that's
It's
not a
confirmed.
Boston accent.
It's confirmed.
But Joseph Gordon-Levitt is one of those guys who now is starting to bring like that kind of when he's in a movie, he's like Ryan Gosling is from Canada, but like he's one of those guys.
How dare you bring him up?
Gosling?
One of those guys
Can't
that when you
focus
see
on
them,
anything now.
when you see him in a movie,
Put your pants back on.
it
Oh,
has
boy.
some legitimacy.
You know, it's a good.
Right,
you know, it's probably
right.
going to be a good flick if you see this person in it. And Gordon-Levitt has become one of those
Yes.
guys.
Now you know that already with Tarantino, but the fact that he has him as well,
Yeah.
it makes you go, okay, great, because 50-50 is one of my favorite movies of the year,
It's
and
great.
that is because he was so fantastic
yeah,
in the movie.
but this thing, Django.
yeah,
Right?
And
Am I pronouncing it right? Or is it Django?
Until it comes
I'm
out,
pronouncing it
it's
like
fine.
the bounty hunter in Star Wars. Django.
I'm calling it Jenga. Do we know what it's about?
Yes.
Yes. What's it about?
What's it about?
It's about I don't know. It's about an escaped slave. It's set in the slave era, and it's about an escaped slave who.
Starring
I think it's a revenge story. Like one of his relatives is killed, and he goes and kills a bunch of people. Or
Oh,
something.
I was going to say Joseph Gordon-Levitt isn't playing
He's
the
the
slave.
slave.
I was going to say that's a
Gordon-Levitt.
real stretch. That's an actor right there.
Right. So I mean that's why especially from our fan base, they really enjoy Joseph Gordon-Levitt, as you know, we're big fans of him as well. So I think that is news that we wanted to talk about. But
Click on the next story. It says studio exec hit by car in Moscow.
news coming out now while watching Sex in a Club.
Interrupting Sex in a Club.
Oh, I apologize. But this is a story that was a positive story. This to me is more of a negative story. And Catherine always gets on us when we talk about the sci-fi shit. But I have to.
Let it out.
Nerd alert! Nerd alert!
There. All right. This guy who just did the script for Anonymous, right? Which the jury's still out.
I saw it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I liked it.
Really?
Yeah. The
Okay.
third act
Even though
is
Emmerich-
problematic.
Okay.
He's a
Yeah.
good writer.
All right. Well,
This is a different period of
It's
his career.
John Orloff who's the writer. Okay. Who also did Ellis.
Yeah.
Legend of the Guardians.
Oh my! The Owl movie.
Ellis loves the Owl.
Single-handedly got me through one of the worst hangovers of my career. I loved that movie.
Well, you know what? And he also wrote Band of Brothers and
Yeah, he wrote on it. Yeah, he's a
Okay.
good writer.
All right,
Kid's got pedigree.
He's a
So
good-
what's the deal?
All right.
This is what gets me upset.
Uh-oh.
He's closing a deal to write Bryan Singer's Battlestar Galactica
Oh
film.
boy, who cares?
The
I gotta-
series was great. Leave it alone. The series was amazing.
So you don't want a movie?
Why are we doing?
Why wouldn't you make a movie?
Yeah,
Are you
why
putting the actual cast in it, or are you doing a whole reboot?
Who cares?
Who cares? You love
I'm with you.
reboots.
Yeah.
No,
Star
You want to
Trek.
see
They
Michael
just-
Keaton continue to play Batman, or
No,
do you want
fuckface,
Christian
it
Bale
just-
playing
it
it?
just
Okay,
went-
language. That is a nickel in the
I
jar.
apologize. It just went.
Everybody heard that, right? That wasn't
just
just
went from a
Totally
PG-13
he called me
to an
fuckface on the air, Navid.
That just-
This is what I have to deal with. This is when he gets his old. He's like, "Oh, I'm Christian. I work at Warner Brothers. I can call people fuckface."
You locked me out of the damn office today.
You're key.
We need to move on from that. We really need
All
to
right.
move on from that.
I am
And you
not
be
a sexist.
quiet, lady, and not LADY, LATIE.
I don't know what that means.
I'm lost.
Late. Late. E.
All right, so but
anyway.
Battlestar Galactica read, but I realized that I think here's the
You're
problem.
going to eat your words if that ends up being a good movie.
No. Listen, I think it's going to do well, but I just don't understand what's the point of it. If we just had the series end in like 2007, 2008 is when it ended.
Everyone thought J.J. Abrams rebooting Star Trek was a terrible idea.
I
Look
did.
how awesome that
Yeah,
movie was.
and they redid the Hulk 3 years after the.
But Star Trek had a whole bunch of movies. I don't know.
I said this
I don't-
last
I
week.
think
Why
you're
wouldn't
wrong.
you want to see the energy of something that you really like again?
Yeah,
Even if it was different and evolved?
Yeah, I mean, like Footloose again. I thought
Bigger.
the Footloose the movie was good. I liked it. I still don't understand the why are you doing it?
Did you
right.
have fun watching it?
I did, but I don't know. But I could have fun watching the DVD.
I'm going to tell you the
But you
difference
didn't. You saw a
between.
new one.
I'm going to tell you the difference between
free.
me and Harloff is anytime the subject of Star Wars comes up. He always goes to the prequels and is like, oh, George Lucas just made the prequels and they suck, and he put the new scene at the end of Return of the Jedi. And I would rather be positive and think about how much I love the movies that I watched as a kid. Okay?
Right.
So when you talk about Battlestar, I think Christian's a little more hesitant because he doesn't want it to ruin the legacy of the great TV
But
show.
how does it
Me,
ruin
I'm all
something
for
you already
taking
know and
risks.
love?
Like, I want to see Van Halen have a new album and hear it. Maybe it sucks, maybe it's great. It's not going to ruin what they've already done.
That's right.
This
It's
is not
already
going to
done.
ruin your beloved TV show that you get to watch, and for some reason your wife lets you and she still married you, and you can watch
Shocking.
all the DVDs all the live long day. If the movie's great, awesome. If not, it's going to be okay.
And if it's not great, you get to make fun of it and have a blast doing
All right,
so.
that was a long soliloquy.
I feel like it's like an
I didn't
intervention.
even take a nap. You need one. You called me fuckface.
All right, how about this? How about Ellis? I know Transformers 3 is near and dear to your heart.
If you want to put me in a better mood and you bring this up,
No,
what?
he hates
What's the
Transformers.
problem?
Making
So
4
did I.
and 5 at the same time?
They're making Transformers 4 and
filming
5 at the same
simultaneously.
time.
Are they
Michael
really?
Bay
They are.
Michael Bay has not confirmed yet that he's going to be directing, and Shia LaBeouf is gone, and now you have. Yeah, he's gone.
Did he die in the third one?
No, he got his ass kicked out in Canada. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
Oh, it's
That was
amazing.
awesome.
What
It was
happened?
so good.
Some guy in the street.
He was talking.
And someone videotaped him
It's a-
getting, like, some guy was, like, holding him down.
and pounding him. It was amazing. Yeah, it was amazing. It was like
What?
this is for Transformers franchise.
Well, that's not
Fuckface.
right. Don't
No,
let
they're all-
okay.
They didn't beat him up for
For you
Transformers. I'm
kids
just hoping.
listening at home, do not attack actors for being
No,
in
I'm just
movies.
kidding. That's not why they really did. That's why I was hoping. he
Okay,
did. He
well,
was
why
probably-
did they beat?
No, but the guy
he's a
the-
loud
No,
mouth.
the guy was drunk, and I think he just held him down. They both were really drunk. If you watch it,
Yeah. He should, but I don't. But
We
look,
don't know what brought on the fight.
We know that LaBoots has been out there talking smack. He
Yeah.
admitted that he had sex with Megan Fox while she was married. He's just, He's just
I will say this:
Yeah.
violence is never the answer. However, when he was getting beat up, was he screaming "Optimus" the whole time? Sorry, no.
Maybe. But
I hope
anyway.
you recover, kid.
Yeah, but he's fine now.
So
but
they're going to make 4 and 5.
they're going to make 4 and 5
At
and
the
apparently-
same time.
Same time, and
That's for money
Statham has been rumored.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
Did you say Jason was?
Jason Statham
Really?
is rumored
to replace him?
to replace him as not going to play Sam Witwicky. That'd be weird, but he's going to play someone new. But I'm hoping that Michael Bay is nowhere to be found as far
I
as
hope
directing.
so. I
Let's
hope so too.
Let's hope.
But you know what? If it's being made simultaneously, then you got to think Michael Bay's behind, because this bad guy to me seems like the kind of guy, he just lives for the danger of having a huge production, and it's so big it could fail at any time. Like, he wants the biggest. It's a 45-minute action scene that you can't tell what's going on at the end of Transformers 3. The only way to top that is to
one in
film
Chicago?
2 of them simultaneously. Yeah. Chicago gets destroyed.
I know they shot that on Michigan Avenue during rush
Yeah.
hour on a Friday.
Yeah, and this Bay, he probably wanted it like that because he loves the thrill of having the biggest scenes in the world, like having
Could
such a
he
huge
not
set.
just use that same 45-minute action sequence and put it in the next one and the fifth one and
Right.
be like, new material?
Here's how you torture Michael Bay: is you sit him down in a theater in front of a Sofia Coppola movie, like somewhere, and you strap him, and he just has to pay attention.
and put his eyes open like Clockwork Orange.
yeah.
Thank you.
Why is this
Thank
taking
you.
so long? I need an explosion.
Yep. What was I going to ask you now too? Oh, Navid, I don't know if you have any information on this. I know it's not. I know it's MGM, but is there any news with the Red Dawn remake? Like, was there? I mean, I know it's been in the can forever. I know that they had that whole legal thing with MGM. They didn't know what was going on. I know that's kind of settled now, right?
Yeah, well, MGM went into bankruptcy, then it got bought out
Right.
and whatever. And I don't know.
a lot of stars. Thor's in it, right?
Yeah.
No, not Thor. His brother.
No, Hemsworth's in it. Chris.
Isn't
Chris
it?
is.
Oh, really? Okay.
I've heard it's not great, but that's not the reason why they'd hold it this long. They probably just don't have the way to distribute it or a slot or whatever, and they're still figuring it out from the bankruptcy.
Yeah.
I don't know, though.
See, that's and I guess I'm kind of contradicting myself because I love.
I was just
Red
gonna
Dawn.
say, yeah.
I love Red Dawn,
Interesting.
and I am interested to see how they pull it off because I think I want to see how they would do it with nowadays
Well, hasn't more
politics.
time passed? in between them?
Yes, a lot more time has passed. It's been like 25 years or something.
So there's more of a demand for a remake.
Yeah,
or a
I mean,
reboot.
because
Yeah, but
especially
you know what
because
else,
the political landscape has changed so much too. So
Okay, I'm sure that you can make the political landscape in outer space in Battlestar years change too. You can fast forward that.
You see, I think you're just more protective over.
Didn't they make this one North Koreans?
True.
Wasn't this one North Koreans?
That's what I heard.
It was, but then they changed it because they didn't want to get into. Then they went and CGI'd everything. I forget who the bad guy is now. I forget what happened. Something stupid.
It's some little Asian country that can't do anything to us.
Yeah, it's like Rambo 3. They're fighting Burma.
No, well, that's a good point you bring up though. Like as a studio exec, do you guys care? And you probably do. Because
Yes,
originally Stallone wanted Rambo to come back as the guy who goes in and kills Bin Laden. Like that was his dream for it, right? He goes to Afghanistan and he finds Bin Laden. That's what John Rambo does.
Yeah.
And then that kind of got squashed. And did that get squashed?
Because they would have come out like Hot Shots 3. You know what I mean? Like they would have had somebody in like some beard looking. You know what?
Terrible. That is going to be the Schmo's classic comedy clip of the week. You guys get Hot Shots and go to the end when Saddam Hussein is just sipping lemonade at a pool and they drop the bomb on
That's
him.
the end of one.
One of the funniest scenes in movie history.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So, we
What was
mentioned
your question?
But so that would would that turn people off?
No. Look, there's degrees. Probably. Well, I don't know why
Why
they
is
would
he
change.
in Burma? Why did he switch to Burma instead of going to get Bin Laden?
I don't know, because I don't think anybody would really have any kind of issues with that. It's usually monetary.
Yeah.
So like we're not. They don't want to make China the bad guys because they want them to release their movies, or they, you know, like that kind of thing. You don't want some other big country where you can sell a lot of tickets to be the bad guys in a movie because.
Yeah.
You want them, you know.
So basically, the little guys.
Yeah, or like that's why I'm surprised. Did they really change it from North Korea?
Yeah, they did. They changed it. I forget what.
But I don't understand because nobody gives a shit about North Korea.
I'm not sure. Let me double check, but I'm pretty sure.
I thought they changed it from China to North Korea. I don't know. Whatever. Anyways,
maybe you're right.
I don't know why they wouldn't have allowed it to be Bin Laden. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I just think it would have been kind of silly, to be honest with you too. And you know Tarantino pulled it off.
Rambo.
I know Tarantino pulled it off with the with when they killed spoilers when they killed Hitler in Inglourious Basterds. Like they pulled that off the way that Tarantino shoots, but I don't think Stallone's the same mastermind. All right, another story that I wanted to. We talked about The Dark Knight before. This is a story that I think is pretty interesting. Warner Brothers is going to show the prologue for the way that they did it last time for The Dark Knight. What movie? Oh, I Am Legend. They showed like 8 minutes of The Dark Knight, and they did put that beforehand in IMAX.
In IMAX only, right?
Yeah, and they're doing it again they're going to show 6 minutes of Batman right in front of Mission Impossible. How do we feel about that?
I don't understand. Mission Impossible is a Paramount movie. Why are you trying to help them sell tickets? I don't get it.
Right.
Well, that wouldn't even be one hand washes the other because Batman's already going to be huge.
Right, Mission Impossible, no one really cares about.
But all that does is
I care
get
about
you to
that.
sell more.
That trailer looks great. The Ghost Protocol trailer. I'm excited about that Mission Impossible movie. Yeah,
it's pretty dope.
Yeah, dope is studio exec terminology for cool.
Yeah, I think Catherine and I are on the same
rad,
page.
as they could say.
Here's my question
a cool
about
trailer.
But here's my question about Dark Knight, the new one. Like,
Christian just has a crush on Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I know. Ever since that, every time I come over to his house, hold on, Sadie, the guys are playing volleyball.
I get more excited watching him jump on the couch. But the thing is with Dark Knight, like sometimes I don't watch trailers because they give too much away. If they show that 6 minutes beforehand, isn't it going to get y'all jazzed up again? You got to wait like 7 months to see the
Now,
movie.
here's the thing. If you saw the first 6 minutes for The Dark Knight in IMAX like 6 months before it came out, that is a tough 6 minutes to sit on for 6 months.
That's what I mean.
That bank robbery seems pretty exciting.
Yeah.
I actually, a buddy of ours, Schmo favorite, Mike Black, called me up this summer before Avatar came out and said, hey, I got this special screening. You can go see 16 minutes of Avatar.
Right.
But it wasn't linear. It wasn't a linear 16 minutes.
Did it make any sense?
It was
sort of.
Did the last 30 minutes of Avatar make any? I mean, it was like watching your friend play a video game a little bit, and that's what it kind of was. You just see all these great, amazing shots. And I
felt like I had seen the movie, but then the movie was better.
The movie was good, yeah. And but I don't understand why The Dark Knight Rises people would do this. I definitely understand why Mission Impossible people would do this. Having said that, as a fan, I am going to see Mission Impossible in IMAX now. because I want to see as much as I can.
This is what I don't understand. Why is Warner Brothers helping Paramount?
Yeah, I don't know. What
That
the deal
definitely
is there.
motivates me.
That's why we had you on the show, Navid. You're here to answer these questions.
I do. I don't know the answer. To that.
Make a phone call.
Doesn't make sense. Okay, I'll call Silverman right now.
Get to the bottom of it.
All right. Well, that's a couple stories that I wanted to talk about.
Heads.
I wanted to ask you as far as do you have like favorite directors out there right now that you like? Again, like we talked about like stars and stuff that. Like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, when you see it, for normal people who are just watching movies, that's who you go for. A lot of people don't always pay attention to the directors and writers. Are there people like for you, that someone got signed on as director? Oh, that gets you excited. Like whether it be up and coming. Who are some of your favorite directors established? Who are your favorite up and coming?
That's a hard question. Well, okay, I'll give you an example. I just put this movie together. We had a book that was it was like an okay book, and then we got a friend of mine adapted it and turned it into really great character based. It's kind of like Bourne, but with the character stuff from Man on Fire, right?
Okay,
like it's more elevated. Yeah. And Brad Pitt committed to star, and we're doing it next year.
Wow,
That's
you heard
great.
it here first. No, you didn't really. It's online.
You heard it here first, kids. The Schmoes Know podcast. Breaking news.
That's my
Shia LaBeouf gets his ass beaten.
Who's set to direct it?
So James Gray is directing it, and that's an example of something I think I really like doing, which is finding these guys who have done a few movies who are really great elevated filmmakers who are like the next generation of the guys from the 70s, like the Scorsese's and all those guys. But like if you can't get them, per se, or like Scorsese's probably not doing this movie. Actually, Michael Mann came in to meet on it, but we wanted like a cool, fresh, unique, new voice that is. I think James is the next Scorsese, and he's amazing. He's an amazing person.
What movies did he done?
He did We Own the Night, Two Lovers, The Yards, and Little Odessa was his first one.
Wow. Okay.
He's got like that track that Scorsese did over like the gritty street movies, the crime thrillers from his neighborhood, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where's he from?
New York.
Oh, cool.
I'll sign off on it, but if he doesn't put enough bright colors in the picture, get him out of there.
Get him out.
But anyway, the point of me bringing up that story is I think that's a kind of a cool direction that the business is going in, like what they did with Nolan. Like, they brought him off of Insomnia and his other, Memento. And a lot of people we're looking at these new, young, great filmmakers that have done like 2-3 really cool elevated movies and putting them on bigger things as long as they can cast it with a star. So like Nick Refn's that guy now. I don't know how you guys felt about Drive, but I
liked it a lot.
He's one of those guys, and there's like a bunch of those guys that are like coming up that have done.
And they have a real point of view.
Yeah.
You can feel it on the film.
Right. Well, that's what we said. I mean, Mark and I thought Drive was fine, but I understand how people love it. But that movie is a clear example of when the director is he's the star of the film.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, totally. That's why. Look, I like the movie a lot. I didn't love it. A lot of people loved it. What I loved and respected was his choice to take like that calm 80s style filmmaking.
Yeah, we did too. And that was the thing. Like it's either what we just said or what Catherine said. There's no I haven't heard a lot of people really say, "Oh, it sucks." I haven't heard that. I've heard it's either it was okay or I loved it. But him, you cannot watch that movie and not realize that someone talented,
he's a visionary.
Yes,
director.
and I think that you're going to hear a lot about him. But yeah, I mean, there are some directors and
it's not just made for some mass audience.
No.
It's there's like a stillness in it. Like
Yes.
it's really a piece of art.
So I mean, that's. Who else though that you're not working with? Like if there's someone like it can be someone like really established. Like who's your favorite director out there right now?
Favorite of all time. Well, I shouldn't say all time.
That's
but
still alive.
That's still a I mean,
I want your favorite
Still
of all
alive and
time. I want favorite of all time too. I want to hear.
I mean, you kind of have to give it to Coppola, even though lately he hasn't been up to snuff.
good wine though. Good vineyard on that guy.
Yeah.
But look, I mean, just look at his movies.
Right.
And then Scorsese's one of those.
Right.
I like the older Michael Mann movies, but a lot. Here's another thing with a lot of these more established guys who've been around a long time. Not only do they get to do whatever the hell they want, but too often, like Michael Mann will do this, where they get to do whatever the hell they want. They'll spend as much money as they want, and then they'll attach themselves to projects all around town. Like they'll be on 5, 6, 7 different things, and then they'll develop it forever and ever and ever, and then decide they're not going to do it. So it kind of slows down your process. Where if you get in one of these younger guys, like, ooh,
it's going to get done.
I get to work with Brad Pitt on a movie. I'm in. I'm doing it.
Right.
And then
that makes sense.
Yeah.
But, there's two other things. You talk about directors and stuff. And this is something that was in the stories too that I forgot to bring up. But this whole thing that's going on with David O. Russell and Mark Wahlberg now.
I'd love to hear it.
So
the guy who directed The Fighter and the star of The Fighter.
Yes, the star of The Fighter, Mark Wahlberg, which The Fighter was like his dream project, was trying to get it made forever, brings on David O. Russell to kind of, and more or less resurrects David O. Russell's career.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, but now David O. Russell and Mark Wahlberg are supposed to do this new movie together.
Which one?
Shit, is it called?
I have a movie starting with Wahlberg in 3 weeks.
I forget the name of whatever this one is supposed to be called. And after I tell you what happened, you'll probably realize. But apparently, Wahlberg and Anne Hathaway was attached to this thing as well. And then and Wahlberg had it in his contract that if Anne Hathaway dropped out, that he would get like $900,000.
Okay.
And so Anne Hathaway dropped out, and then.
That was in my contract. I'd be like, "Hey, Anne, drop out of this."
Apparently, this is what I read not a day ago, and then so basically, David O. Russell now booted Wahlberg from the movie because he was too expensive, and they got Bradley Cooper, and now Wahlberg all pissed off.
Whoa!
Now you talk about ungrateful.
Holy!
And I mean,
that's a tough
wait
decision,
a minute.
dude.
The guy saved your career. All people knew you for before this was screaming at Lily Tomlin at a desk.
That's right. That's right. You had a terrible reputation.
I get it. He's a little bit crazy, but why would he boot Wahlberg? That doesn't make any sense.
Because apparently he was going to cost too much money. This is.
But that's not out of his. I don't even understand.
I don't understand either. But listen. I will forward you both the email. And I will post
think this story's crooked?
No, it was from the rap.com.
It doesn't make sense that that's exactly.
Why don't you go ahead and look it up? Because when we saw The Fighter, we saw a SAG screening of The Fighter, and they do the Q&A afterwards, and they had David O. Russell and Wahlberg there, and Christian Bale too, who looks striking. My goodness.
Really?
Looked like Jim Morrison, but with like more, muscle. And Wahlberg and David O. Russell were like, just buddy, the best of friends, talking about how much they loved making this movie. Right when The Fighter came out.
Okay.
Because everybody was so excited about it, because it was, Oscar, it was Oscar buzz and all that good stuff. And to hear, I don't see why a director would have the power to kick a guy off because he was costing the studio money, unless the studio ordered him to do it. Right?
Yeah, I don't.
But that's not his call. Wouldn't the studio
just do it?
All right, here's the article from the rap.com. One of the most enduring I'm going to read this whole article, so bear with me.
Please don't.
One of the most enduring friendships in Hollywood, and one that led to the Oscars this year, has dissolved in acrimony.
I'm checking my email.
That's fine. So here's apparently what happened. They went with Bradley Cooper because they felt he was hungrier and would work for cheaper. Mark Muzio, Russell's cousin and the frequent collaborator, told The Wrap. Muzio also fell out with the director recently, but said he was with Russell this summer on Martha's Vineyard when the decision was made. Another individual close to Wahlberg confirmed the information. So Wahlberg's deal provided that he was supposed to be paid an additional $900,000 if Anne Hathaway fell out of the project. It happened. And so, it's a whole bunch of shit going on.
You know what? There seems to be a lot of people, Anne Hathaway included, leaving this picture. I wonder if there's something else we don't know about.
Who knows? But let's say what the name of the movie is. The name of the movie is called The Silver Linings Playbook. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you all
Silver
excited
Linings
about?
Playbook.
Just funny timing. My friend just texted me and goes, "Could Adam Sandler movies get any dumber?"
Yeah, right? Now you talk about
this new one is like revolting.
But here's the thing. That's a great. I'm so glad you brought that up. Because
thank God you rescued us from that. From Harloff reading the internet.
Harloff, no one knows. No one cares.
No, all right, fine.
By the way, can I just add to that story though that Wahlberg is literally one of the nicest guys I've ever met.
He is. I've met him as well.
Hear.
He's
yeah.
a really
Christian,
nice
you have
guy.
a good Wahlberg story. You want to tell that real quick? It's a really nice, heartwarming story.
It's true though. When I first got out here, I didn't know anybody. I had no.
I was Wahlberg.
What's that?
Is this a story good?
This is it's a good story.
It's just quick.
When Christian first got out to Hollywood in the early '60s.
Yeah, in the early '60s. No, but I literally what the hell was the name of this? Garden of Eden. You remember that place?
Yes.
Yeah. And I got
you
here.
saw someone fuck there, right?
So I got in there. I didn't know anybody, and Wahlberg was sitting. I'm sitting around, and, like, he was the first celebrity I really ever saw. So I'm looking over. I'm like, oh, it's Mark Wahlberg guy, and I'm like an asshole sitting by myself, not knowing anybody, sipping on whatever the hell I was sipping on. And he goes, "Hey man, come here." He's talking to a buddy of mine. He's like, "Come here." It's like, I'm like, "Hey." He's like, "I'm Mark." I'm Christian. He's like, "How you doing?" And struck up a conversation with me because he knew I was sitting there looking like an asshole face, staring at the chandelier. And he was the nicest guy in the world. He could have just been like, let that guy just sit there and
which
play
a lot
with
of
his
people
balls.
have done to you since then.
That's true. It happened last week.
That was bold of him.
No, I feel bad.
My wife does it to me every day.
Things I've said about his movies.
That's okay. He is a good guy. But you brought up that Adam Sandler shitbox, and
Say what you want about Adam Sandler movies, though. This Jack and Jill thing looks pretty funny.
Get
I'm
out.
kidding. I'm kidding.
It's gonna work though.
And that's my point.
Wait, what do you mean it's going to work?
It's gonna make
money.
it's gonna make
His
money.
movies all do this exact same amount of
I'm
business.
telling you,
Wow.
except Little Nicky. That was the only one.
But that was 100 years
Yeah,
ago.
I know. But no, you're 100% right. The thing, and I thought I was talking about this with someone the other day, and they're like, "Oh, that movie's gonna bomb." I said, "No way. That movie is gonna make so much money, and you literally could have Adam Sandler talking to an egg."
Yeah.
For an hour and a half.
I thought Grown Ups was going to be the first one as it didn't
and it
work.
didn't.
And it was huge.
Everything the guy does.
He's
You know
got
why?
an audience, and they all go see his movie,
Yeah.
and it's always the same exact. If you looked, all the dollar amounts are all roughly about the same.
And Jack and
he's
Jill
a nice-
comes out around Thanksgiving, okay? And
Yeah.
that's when a lot of families get together and they pretty much just want to get out of the house and shut the kids up. And you
Right.
see Adam Sandler on the marquee, the box office.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this is about
Safe.
this is a movie. It's a holiday movie.
Right.
Let's throw the kids in there.
And the thing that doesn't bother me about them being successful is that he's a nice guy. And he's a good guy.
Yeah, he's super nice.
But his twin
Right.
sister, total bitch.
No, she's
oh
a
wait,
bitch.
that's the movie. Sorry,
Oh, yeah.
I'm getting him confused.
George C. Scott was not a fan.
If you guys haven't seen it yet, listening out there, somebody did a YouTube video that went viral that was George C. Scott watching
The trailer.
for Jack and
and Jill.
Jill.
Have you seen it, Naveen?
And
Oh, it's brilliant.
It is
He's like,
hysterical.
he's watching, he's so upset, and at the end he's like, "Turn it off! Turn it off!"
It's some George C. Scott movie
Yeah.
that they spliced in, and I don't know what the picture is.
No,
it's not
it's not
Patton.
Patton. It's not
It might.
Patton.
He did a couple horror movies, and it might be one of those.
Yeah, maybe
but-
it's amazing though, but you should check it out. But
And around Christmas time, George C. Scott, still for my money, the best Scrooge that ever walked.
it's a good one. I have one more question for Naveed, then we can wrap it up. Can you give us?
I didn't even get to tell any jokes.
Thank God. That's why I'm wrapping it up.
We kind of coached
we
Naveed
did- we did.
when we did the
Naveed did
Schmoes No
stand-up.
Live program,
Yeah.
a brief yet successful run
As a
at
stand-up
Room
comedian,
5.
it's true.
Naveed made his debut as a stand-up comic.
And we will actually post a link on the bottom of the description of the Podbean.
And he had the classic stand-up kind of set because he did 2 sets.
Right.
And the first night he went up, he had a really, really good set.
Right.
And like every comic, the first time you go up, you're like, oh, this is easy. I can do this. Then the second set, not as good. Not quite as successful.
No, I changed it up.
Yeah, but it was fun coaching. You did
I talked about having sex with
memorable
fat
job.
chicks, and Christian told me not to.
Yeah, I said cut that out of there.
Naveed typed up his jokes, and we both look at him. And look at each other like this one ain't gonna work.
No,
that was the studio execs get meddling in a director's work.
One of the things, though, Naveed, that I want to, do you have anything that you can tell us that we can break on this show? Anything that you've heard? Anything that, something new, some scoop that the Schmoes can actually say, that shit broke first on the Schmoes.
Mark Ruffalo is playing the Hulk in the new Avengers movie.
Well done.
And
Well done.
Shit, I don't know. Not off the top of my head.
Well, he's told us a number of good stories.
Yeah,
he
we'll
hasn't
have
been
him-
able to name
No,
who was
it's
having
true.
sex in the club or who
We'll
was
find
with
out
him
after
when
the
he got
break.
hit by a
That's
car.
right.
That's right. But anyway, Naveed, thank you for coming in today and just talk some shit. We'll love to have you back again, too. We should have you back with Gambino and Ethan.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
We got to get Olsen because then we have somebody to make fun of the whole time.
Well, the problem is if that happened, we'd all be playing Halo.
You know what?
And
Yeah.
I leave.
That's a good idea. I want all these studio execs to come in at the same time, and it's going to look like British Parliament. Just a bunch of people yelling at each other, nothing getting accomplished, but fun will be had for that hour, and fun was had for this hour. Thank you very much for joining
Yeah,
us.
Yes,
Thank
thanks for
you.
joining us,
Thank you.
Naveed. And Catherine, of course, thank you for joining us as
Totally.
well. You can check Catherine out at youtube.com/Catherine Reitman.
And I am Mark Ellis saying that I am for women's suffrage.
That's right.
For it.
Yes.
And guys, of course, you can catch us on youtube.com/schmoesno, and make sure that you rate this podcast, on iTunes, and give us a comment.
You can rate on iTunes?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
See how much I listen to you guys?
That's right. Thank you, and thank you, Katie, of course, our lovely producer. All right. See you later.